So the great teaching goes something like this. It says, you are that. Tattvam asi means you are that. You are that. That means none of you who are here today, who have attended this call with me today, none of you are interested in seeing Tom, in seeing what Tom has got to say, in meeting me. None of you are interested in being with Tom. None of you have come here to see what Tom has to say. None of you are fundamentally interested in anything to do with me. Some of you may think, oh, can't wait to see Tom, hear what he has to say. Maybe some of you are even excited to hear what I have to say. I don't know. Maybe you're not. The point is, this is about you. It's not about someone else, such as Tom or me or anyone else. Many of us here will share a love for Ramana's teachings, as I do, and for Ramana himself, as I do. Many of us here may share such a liking, a love, a faith in him and his teaching, as I do. But what is the purpose of these teachings? It's just to discover what you are. Discover. There are two parts of that word. Discover. It means to uncover what you are. It means this is what you already are. We are looking for fulfillment, total fulfillment, devoid of any misery. This is our heart's desire. And you do not get that from someone else, something else. The best I can do is point you back to yourself. And maybe, perhaps to that end, I'm provisionally useful. Some of you here will have seemed to have forgotten who or what you are. And the nature of this forgetting is to imagine that you are a limited body-mind entity. So the forgetting of your true nature is the same as the so-called remembering or pretending that you are a body-mind entity, that you are separate, small, vulnerable, subject to birth, disease, suffering, old age, time, and death. This is the nature of forgetting. This forgetting is also called ignorance, or delusion, or samsara, or maya, or suffering. It's also known as ego, conceit, self-conceit. And when we remove this self-conceit, this ego, this duality, this ignorance, when we remove this self-conceit, we discover self, devoid of any conceit. Conceit kind of means pride, in case some of you are not familiar with that word. It means pride. An inflated notion of what you are. Ironically, this inflated notion of what we are actually is a deflation. We actually think we're much smaller, much more limited than what we actually are. And it's because we think we're much smaller that we try and inflate this small ego into something, puff our chests up to make ourselves seem bigger than what we are. So we don't feel so vulnerable as a separate self. This is all a movement of ego. This particular movement is called pride or arrogance or self-conceit. Anyway. The point of this gathering here is for us to discover, uncover the reality that we are. And so the teaching never points towards an object. It never ultimately points to an object. It may temporarily point to an object, but ultimately we must come back to what we are. Now, how to do this? What does this mean? How do we come back to what we are? Well, this is where Guru's teachings, Ramana's teachings are so wonderful. Because he explains to us clearly what we are, what the nature of the self is, and what we are not. What is the nature of ignorance, illusion, delusion? And his teachings steer us towards that which we are. So what are we? What am I? Who am I? What am I? From where does all this manifestation spring? From where does all this manifestation come forth from? From whence, or from where does this body-mind appearance come from? From where does this illusion, this root delusion of I, being a me, a body-mind, arise from? Who am I? What is the source of this delusion? The source is the reality, that which you are. Everybody knows I am. Everybody knows they exist. Everybody knows I am. We may think we know about God, but all we really know is our concepts of God. They could be mistaken, totally mistaken. We think we know the world and the universe, but what we really know is our ideas and our concepts of the world, which could be completely wrong. You may think you have a pretty good understanding of how the universe works, how the world works, the laws of physics, the laws of nature, the laws of science. But maybe in 10 years, in 100 years, those laws that you were so sure of are now found to be inaccurate and wrong. And knowledge is changing and evolving. Knowledge of Maya, knowledge of objects, scientific knowledge, it's evolving, it's changing. If it's good science, when the data changes, the theories will change to keep up with the new data that's coming. But we know I am. We may think we know about God. We may think we know about the world. But we could be mistaken about God. We could be mistaken about the world. We may think we know about meditation and about all these spiritual topics, the yogas, the chakras, all the various postures, the asanas, all that knowledge you have. We may be wrong. I'm not saying these things are worthless, by the way. I'm not saying science is worthless. I'm not saying spiritual knowledge is worthless. I'm not saying even concepts of God are worthless. I'm just saying these are things we cannot be sure about. What can we be sure about? This that we can be sure about is called the reality. It's called the self. What can you never doubt? You know, when you're having a dream, you may dream that you're a person who's got a 9-to-5 job, who's got a family, who's got a house, etc., etc. You may dream whatever it is you're dreaming, and in that dream you think it's all real. Only when you wake up do you realize, oh, this is all fiction. This was all fantasy. This was a dream. This was a projection of my subconscious mind. This was a projection of my mental tendencies, my vasanas, my conditioning. Similarly, what do we know now? This could be a dream. What do we know for sure? Bhagavan Ramana points out that which you know is yourself. You know you exist. This is called self-knowledge. You don't need to go anywhere for it. You don't need to do anything to obtain it. It is self-evident, self-knowledge, the knowledge inherent in us all, the knowledge I am. This seemingly insignificant knowledge seems so obvious and insignificant that we never bother to attend to it. We never bother to investigate it ordinarily. We're so busy investigating and attending, placing our attention onto other things, objects, other people, other things, all these objects. But if we just relax, just relax, and come back to that which we are, everything comes clear. This meeting, the purpose of this meeting, this satsang, is just to facilitate that. Coming back to what you are. Dissolving all ignorance in the reality, metaphorically speaking. Dissolving the false I, which is likened to a doll made out of salt, a salt doll. Dissolving the false I, the salt doll of ego, of ignorance, into the self, the oceanic self. It's just the metaphor. Now, along the way, we may have ups and downs along the way. There'll be times where our faith is strong. There'll be times when we're very motivated and very earnest in our spiritual quest. And there may be other times where we're confused or we're demotivated, where our faith is low. This is normal. This is common. And this group is here to help you through that. Both the satsang, which is what we're currently doing now, and the after satsang, which is after this meeting is over. As you know, as most of you know, you're very welcome to stick around and talk to each other, get to know each other, listen to each other, non-judgmentally listen, not impose your views on others, but to share and be there for each other, support each other, connect with each other, help each other. Lessen the isolation that can be sometimes part of some people's spiritual journey, many people's spiritual journey. This is what this satsang and after satsang group is here for. Why? Just to discover yourself, to remove all suffering. The nature of your self is unending happiness, unending bliss, unbroken peace. It is the source, the origin, the metaphorical place from which all this arises, all the manifestation arises. It is the truth of Ramana and his teachings. He is one with us in our hearts. So if we devote ourselves to Ramana, even if we devote ourselves to him, and we conceive of him as an object, he will, through his power, which is the power of the self, power of source, but he will, through his power, take us back to ourselves. And he has written this for us. If you read the chapter on bhakti in Sri Ramana Gita, there's a chapter on bhakti, very short chapter that explains this, if anyone's interested. You will find it on tomdas.com as well, blogged on tomdas.com. Take a look if you want to. Sri Ramana Gita on bhakti. Beautiful, short chapter.